when I interview everybody that we hire, at least at the second round before they're brought on, I can teach anyone how to do this job. I cannot teach them how to communicate. And so Kelly, Rhoshunda, and I all three said it. You just said it. That is the one skill set. And in this day and age, I think it's even more critical because so many young professionals have grown up with a mobile device in their hand.
You're listening to In the Loop, where we empower financial examiners with the insights, support, and community to thrive in every part of their role. I'm Kareeme.
And I'm Derek.
Well, hello, Derek.
Hey, Kareeme. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am excellent. I'm in D.C. this week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. This has just been a great, fantastic week full of wins for my favorite sporting teams. So, been having a great week, and I know we're going to have an even better episode today. Why? Because we've got some great heavy hitters today with us.
Absolutely. Super excited. Career paths for examiners. We have got some good guests today. Let's get them on the show. Let's get them introduced, and we can get this thing started. So
let's do it. Rhoshunda Kelly is the commissioner of the Mississippi Department of Banking and Consumer Finance, and she serves as the chair of the CSBS Board of Directors. Rhoshunda was appointed commissioner of the Mississippi Department of Banking and Consumer Finance by Governor Tate Reeves on March 22nd, 2021. Rhoshunda has more than 20 years of experience as a regulator, in which she began her career with the department as a bank examiner trainee in 2001. As the commissioner, Rhoshunda ensures effective agency operations and oversees supervision of $127 billion in-state chartered banking assets and more than 8,000 consumer finance and mortgage licenses. Rhoshunda is former vice chair of Mississippi State University Finance and Economics Advisory Board and was named a 2019 Leader in Finance by Mississippi Business Journal. Welcome, Rhoshunda Kelly. Also, Kelly Lammers. Kelly Lammers is the director of the Nebraska Department of Banking and Finance and serves as chair-elect of the CSBS Board of Directors. Kelly Lammers was appointed director of the Nebraska Department of Banking and Finance by Governor Jim Pillen on December 2nd, 2022. He has served in that role since his first appointment in 2020. Lammers considers himself a lifelong student of banking, serving the state of Nebraska through decades of regulatory opportunity, change, innovation, and market movements. Lastly, but not least, we have Susannah Marshall of Arkansas. Susannah is the commissioner of the Arkansas State Bank Department and serves as elected vice chair of the CSBS Board of Directors. Susannah began her career with the Arkansas State Bank Department in 1995 and has fulfilled many roles within the agency. In addition, in 2023, Susannah was appointed by Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders to also serve as Arkansas Securities Commissioner. As the bank commissioner, Susannah is responsible for the regulation, supervision, and examination of Arkansas state chartered banks, bank holding companies, a trust company, and Arkansas Capital Corporation. As of March 31st, 2026, the agency supervised 70 state chartered commercial banks with total assets over $173 billion. She also previously served as a secretary to the CSBS Board of Directors and has served on various committees within the organizations. Loopers, please help me in welcoming our three wonderful guests, Rhoshunda, Kelly, and Susannah. How are you all today?
Good. Glad to be here.
How's your days going? How's your week? We're almost done.
We're almost done. Almost done.
Well, we are definitely excited to have you guys. I think the career paths for examiners is going to be an exciting episode to get to know you guys, kind of where you came from and how you got to where you're at. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot today. So really, really excited. Let's start at the beginning. What originally drew you guys into the regulatory and examiner space? Was this part of a plan? Did you just happen to find it? What were the opportunities that led you into the regulatory space?
A business card. I did not know what examiners did. I didn't understand the regulatory environment. My last semester of college, I took a bank management course. The professor was a former banker. He'd had some supervisors come in, the OCC, from the Department of Banking, FGSC, to talk about career tracks. And that's how I first learned of the supervision world as a career. I initially was just going to go to law school right after college. I decided to work a year. I had 2 cards from the professor. It was the OCC and the DBCF. I called the department, interviewed, got the job. Then I worked 1 year. I fell in love with the training environment, the different cities, the different banks, the different kind of missions that they all had. And I stayed. So I had what I call an accidental career in banking as a bank supervisor because it just wasn't part of the plan, but it evolved. I have no regrets, but I've enjoyed every minute of it.
That is awesome. How about you, Director Lammers? How'd you get started?
Actually, accidentally. It is one of those situations. I am here today because I'm a failure at picking my first career. I so incredibly wanted to be a banker. And as a banker, I found out there were a few things that you really hated in life. First of all, you didn't want the phone to ring after 10 o'clock at night. That was never a good thing as a banker. And then as a personal banker, you didn't want to have to work weekends. You wanted to trade out with anyone else. And then that third worst thing was working with examiners. They can be a real pain in your cash drawer. At one moment in my career as a banker, I had a moment in which I could not figure out what was going on in my lobby. We actually had a very micro run on our institution, but yet we had a situation in which even the Catholic nuns lined up, and we had a videotaping of these people withdrawing money out of the facility that I was now quite young, I might point out, quite young, but nonetheless, facility that I was working the cashier of the teller line. So I took a great deal of personal pride in that. And the state called and said, can we help? How in the heck is an examiner going to help? And through a matter of about 2 more hours, they called back 2 more times and explained that the governor was about to declare an emergency. And as we rolled the TV out into the lobby during this emergency, and my lobby is full, and I had one teller actually walk away because the emotional stress was too much. And the drama that goes with all of that, the governor makes an announcement, and the next person up, as you can tell with my stature, I was once a world wrestling match kind of person. The next person in line was probably 6'5" or something like that, very similar to me, and a very big person wearing coveralls. And in coveralls, there's this great big pocket in the middle of this. And for premiums, if you gave out if you came in with $10,000, we gave out jelly beans. What we did with that is the person walked up and he says, the governor just said something. And I explained to him a little bit what's going on. And he says, this is my mother's money. This is my grandmother's money. And he said, are you telling me everything's okay? And I said, yeah, we are working with the state. And he says, you're working with that damn government, huh? I go, yeah, we are doing this together and your money's safe. He said, do you have any of those jelly beans? Now, did I mention I'm the cashier? Everybody had a combination to a safe. You can get money at a bank. That's not a problem. But jelly beans? There's only one person in that place that had the key to the jelly bean drawer. I opened that drawer. I pulled out a bag of jelly beans, handed it to him. He stuck it in the front of his
Overalls.
overalls there. Thank you. I was coming up with all kinds of things. Turned around and walked past the line, and 5 or 6 or 7 other people walked out behind him saying things had changed. And the trust in the lobby transitioned at that moment. We went from panic to absolute control. And I said, at that moment, I am going to be a banker, but I need to understand what government just did. And it was those examiners that made this happen. And within 3 months, I was working for the Department of Banking and Finance as a beginning examiner, and I took that cut and pay that it took to join us. And so I'm here today. I believed I would be here 2 years. How hard could it be to learn how to do this? That's been several decades ago. And nonetheless, I will yield my time and simply say, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you, CSBS, and these amazing leaders that I get to work with, Susannah, Rhoshunda. But nonetheless, I'm here accidentally.
That's incredible. That is an incredible story. Susannah, you got a story for us? You got something like that?
I do, Derek, and it's a third accident.
All right. Pre-accident. That's great.
I had worked part-time as summer help, as they called it, at a local community bank, family-owned, family friends, and did that for a couple of summers. I enjoyed the hours. I enjoyed their conditioning. I enjoyed the people and learning a little bit about, just local community businesses and connecting. And so probably my second year of college, I transitioned that into more of a part-time position at a different institution as I was finishing my degree, still just blind to long-term what I wanted to do, business degree in hand. Knew I did not want to be an accountant, but wanted to stay in business, but not necessarily in banking. I was standing at the gift table at a wedding shower of a friend, and a lady came up and mutual friend introduced us. She said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I work at a bank." And she said, "Oh, do you want to be a bank examiner?" I said, "I have no idea what that is." And she gave me a business card with a phone number on it. On Monday morning, I called that phone number. I had a interview within a couple of weeks, and within a couple of months, I was hired on. And to both Kelly and Rhoshunda's points, I did not know that this would be a long-term career. I knew that I enjoyed banking, but I did not like the monotony of what I thought banking was. I needed some change. I needed excitement. I needed a different routine. I needed a different set of circumstances. And I'll tell you what, I got what I asked for because nurse
Well, so all of you kind of got into banking and the regulatory side, not because that was really what your plan was, but it worked out. There was opportunities for you there. Talk to me a little bit about what early challenges did you face that have really shaped your confidence or even your resilience as examiners today and as leaders today?
two things coming up quick mind. And one is that I think that is still a challenge today for all examiners is that your youth, especially if you're coming right out of a college degree, early in your career, first career choice, you're sitting in a room with your peers at the end of a boardroom table telling a group of very tenured, experienced professionals what they may or may not have done right or what they need to do better. That in and of itself is a pretty intimidating role. And for me, the second piece is often that means I was one of two or maybe the only female in the room. And although I didn't experience any challenges in that regard per se, it was not insignificant that I was in a career field that there was not a lot of people that were young female starting out and certainly not creating a long-term career.
Susannah, I couldn't agree more. I think there is a dynamic of male-driven feel for banking, but also for supervision. I think the nature of the job of supervision, you kind of lend to that. But I'll say this too. One thing I've noticed, at least in my career, is that a lot of really good examiners are introverts, and they work really, really well in kind of the analytical and kind of getting into the weeds and dissecting. But the interacting, the communicating, the engagement, I think that's a little bit of a challenge in introductory or training years as an examiner. So I have seen that be a challenge to some of our newer team. I know it was a challenge for me. I don't think I spoke the first year that I worked in the field with anybody, but I think those challenges become strengths over time. But yeah, I could say that was one of the challenges that I saw outside of the youth and the kind of the gender disparity in that.
And as we talk about those challenges moving forward, all comes down to our ability to work with and adapt to explaining what we saw. What an examiner sees is incredibly important to the entire office, to the entire system. And yet, as we're either experienced and believe we've seen things, which unfortunately puts blinders in front of us, or those that come in with a new perspective, come back from a new school, it all changes that relevance in how do we communicate what we've seen new. Technology say it's data driven, and yet a great deal of us will all have a story about how human driven the art of examining is. So it's all a matter of explaining where you're at and when you're at, because sometimes the when is a key part of seeing a part of the culture that the other people around the table just aren't seeing at that moment in time. But that's your chance to lead up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as young examiners, you face a lot of these challenges, and you guys have kind of talked about it. A lot of us are introverts. We don't want to talk, but the ability to convey or to communicate that the what we've seen, those skill sets and those traits, let's talk about that. What is, for like a brand new examiner, somebody that's getting into this role, even if it's by accident, right? What skill sets or traits matter more than really just that technical knowledge? Like, we'll all learn the laws and how things are done, but what skill sets do you think these new examiners really need as they come into this industry?
I was going to say, I have a saying when I interview everybody that we hire, at least at the second round before they're brought on, I can teach anyone how to do this job. I cannot teach them how to communicate. And so Kelly, Rhoshunda, and I all three said it. You just said it. That is the one skill set. And in this day and age, I think it's even more critical because so many young professionals have grown up with a mobile device in their hand. And so it's written and oral communication.
And I also think, Susannah, it's the written communication, it's the oral communication, it's also the ability to connect, to make eye contact. And what then used to be a challenge now with our new crop, we see it more, the inability to actually connect and have that interaction and make eye contact. But again, those softer skills are important. We actually train on it in our agency. We have someone coming in to work with presentation training. So we're trying to be intentional about it, but I think that's a very, very important skill.
So what I think I hear you saying, like sending memes and funny jokes, like that's not what you're talking about here. I struggle with that from time to time because a lot of the younger group, they send memes and I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
You know?
use your words, use your words.
So written communication, oral communication, those are the keys. If you're thinking about getting into this industry, really, in college, in personal development, work on those written communication and oral communication skills. Let's kind of switch gears a little bit and head over to like career progression and pivotal kind of moments of our careers. Kareeme, you want to jump in here and ask a couple of questions here?
No problem. Look, it's been great to hear how those early experiences shaped your foundation as an examiner. Your reflections that you all shared have really, highlighted how the first roles, challenges, and formative lessons set the tone for long-term success in supervision work. So now that we've covered those early foundations, was there a particular moment in time when you realized this could be a long-term career for you? And if so, what happened around that time?
I'll jump in first and thank you with that. This was actually a job that I entered into with the idea that it would take me 2 years. And I found out that being a senior examiner had a progression path more than 2 years. Within my state, they believed that a senior examiner should take 4. So I was bound to stay 4 and prove that I could do it in 3.5. So nonetheless, it became a game at first, but the game only lasts so long. And at one point, it kind of felt boring and redundant, and I had to take a step back and see what is the big picture of what we're doing. At that point, I thought the future was Colorado School of Banking, and I signed up for that. And Colorado School of Banking did result in me understanding the why to the depth that I ended up deciding this would be my career path, even though it actually came with a lot of job opportunities as well. All of that coming together, what I'm getting at is I get bored easy. I won't even show you my desk. I get tired of one pile of papers and I move to that other pile of paper because, well, that was boring. This isn't a boring job. This can be a dynamic job. It has a lot of opportunity, but until you see the moving parts, you don't understand how you can touch those moving parts. And as a result of that, it actually took 4 or 6 years for me to really decide that all of those moving parts are something that as a field examiner, a supervisor, a review examiner, pick your title. I found that management always wanted to hear, see, and understand what was going on from another person's perspective if that person communicated. So it didn't matter what my title was. I found that there would be a home here. And I blame it on the school, but I think it was a lot of the progression that came within being a field examiner. I would never trade that experience. And at the same time, there's some things out there that aren't always perfect.
Yeah, that's good
Rhoshunda,
stuff,
how about
Kelly.
you? Long-term career. How did you decide that this is what you were going to do?
Well, I really came into this career thinking short term. It's going to work a year. And the year came and year went. Like, I really like it. And to Kelly's point, I think the career progression, the opportunities provided with training, kind of kept me interested, kept me enticed to stay. Went through the graduate school of banking at LSU, got married. And I will say this, as a female traveling examiner, there's like an expiration date that's kind of like circling, and people don't say it, but it's kind of out there. Like, okay, when she gets married, she's gonna leave. When she has a baby, she's gonna leave. Got married, had my first child. I was able to do some hybrid with my first child, made it work, stayed in the field, stayed, did some stuff at home. My second child came. It was time to make a decision. And I was able to get a position in our office as a review examiner. And at that point, I had, gone to LSU. I was in graduate trust school. And I started to finally see this is something that could be a career. And I was 10 years in at that point. So I was really thinking in a transitory way. I was thinking more short term for the first 10 years, not thinking it was going to be a long-term career, but still enjoying it and taking advantage of the opportunities I had, but not really seeing, hey, this is going to be my forever career or my retirement career. And after I came into the office and got in that review examiner position, an open runway at that point. So I was pretty settled in, and I was happy with where I was and had no plans to leave at that point.
So that's powerful information from you all, from Kelly and from Rhoshunda. And so, Susannah, I'm going to give you a little bit different of a question. So building on that, what are some key roles or transitions that helped you grow beyond being an examiner into broader regulatory leadership or influence?
It was about being, I would say, call it right place, right time. I mean, an opportunity. I like Kelly and Rhoshunda. I've got a trifecta of graduate banking school. I went to Dallas to Sweetsy's graduate banking school and had completed really every opportunity that was afforded me up to that point. But then there was a vacancy in our analyst division. And that meant in the office, and analyst division, those examiners touch a little bit of everything. Although I loved the travel was not a problem for me. This opportunity to learn something new, but still stay in this agency that I really had started to love and enjoy. And I kept thinking about what else may come out of that. Let me learn a different skill. And so there was an opening. I put my name in, I was selected, and then that just catapulted me into the next series of roles. A supervisor of that area, and then ultimately as deputy, and then commissioner. And with every opportunity that came, I was also looking around me to see what type of volunteer or extra education or training I can take advantage of. And I want to say that CSBS was a critical part of that trajectory. But at that point in time, I was able to participate in different CSBS programs fairly early on. And I really and truly credit and acknowledge and appreciate CSBS for having so many areas of which an examiner can raise their hand and engage. And I think seeing what was out there outside of my state's, four walls, so to speak, really shone a new light into what a career regulator could be. But again, I had to take the initiative. I had to take the lead. I could have sat back and just been an examiner and had a great career, but I knew there were other opportunities, and I raised my hand, and then it paid dividends.
That's so great. And so, but when you were an examiner, what was some of the best career advice that you received when you were an examiner?
Probably, I would say they told me don't leave for money. So every time, and I was fortunate, I would get calls from banks about that 5-year mark. You start getting called, your name's out there a little bit, and people get used to seeing you, and they're like, oh, it's time for them to get off the road. I would never turn down an interview. And I tell my staff that right now, don't turn down an interview. If it's something you're remotely interested in, or just something to hone your skills, show interest and show engagement, but don't leave if you think it's more money or better pastures, greener on the other side, or the travel's less. Make sure it's a lot of things that are driving you, because every career that you choose is going to have challenges.
That's really, really good advice that you received. And so on the flip side, though, what career advice, I'll start with Rhoshunda, what career advice do you give to your examiners?
Yeah, I tell my examiners really to take advantage of the opportunities, raise your hand. And I tell people, say yes when your first instinct may be to say no, because sometimes an opportunity may be scary, but volunteer when there is a special project. One time I volunteered to help write the regs for another division, but that put me in the office, and I was exposed to other areas of operations within the office. So that exposure only makes you more valuable. So I tell people, raise your hand, ask questions. And if you're interested in a future or bigger career in the office, go to your supervisor. We want to hear that. So I want them to come and express their interest for a long-term career with us. And I want to figure out how we can help make that happen. So I would really tell people to take advantage of opportunities. They're there. They're on a standard career track, but there's also some that may be on a different track that you might want to jump on to increase your exposure to the agency as a whole.
I love that. That is great, great advice. Director Lammers, I'm going to give you that question as well. What career advice do you give to your examiners?
It's critical we look at the future and we start deciding what will the future of banking, what will the future of regulation be, and how does that fit with our concept of being a consumer, of being part of a family or a community. Any examiner take that step back and say, how can we help make that future more seamless, more transparent, and better? Are the charters that we're issuing reflective of the fact that our community is no longer geographic, but it is actually digital? And how do we provide products that move into that realm? As a result of that, some of the changes that occur happen at the licensing level or at the examination level. And people start all of a sudden saying, this isn't only a career with tactics today that teach me how to complete a form, which is critical, but nonetheless, it is a strategy on how we start thinking about tomorrow. Because what got us to today, what makes you an incredibly good beginning examiner, CSBS will have the classes in place that help you think about how you're about ready to make that next step. So it becomes more strategic than just tactical.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking about these career tracks and kind of from the examiner perspective. And a lot of us come into this world and by accident, or we just say, oh, I want to be an examiner, but there's more to it than that. And you guys have kind of touched base on it, some licensing, review. Many of us think that there's like this single career track and examiner career track. What are some of the alternate paths that examiners can pursue within state regulation and bank and non-bank regulation?
And I'm going to jump in first, but everyone's got a story on this because an examiner is no wrong door. If anything, it opens an entire new skyscraper of opportunities. Examining for me, I became an IT administrator because of my understanding of bank databases. It opened a door to policy that I had never considered before. But nonetheless, the career paths, at one time, everyone believed that we were hiring finance majors, which we did because it was simply the practice that HR put on us. And yet today, there's a great deal of marketing involved, communications. There's a tremendous amount of economics. The amount of policy and law that is involved is considerable. So at any moment, at any time, a person could decide that if they were an examiner, they wanted to pivot into that realm. It is possible. It's not just accounting, but it most certainly includes some accounting. It also includes AI and analytics. Susannah already mentioned that her path here included better pictures of what's going on in the economy with better analytics. So as a result of all of that, it's simply an opportunity to start walking down a path. The thing of it is once you're in this path, you realize that everything around it may not change in quite as fast a way and as dynamic of a way. And sometimes we're just caught up in the rush of the fact that it's crazy and hectic, and yet we enjoy it.
Definitely. Rhoshunda, what's your thoughts on what are the alternative career paths that examiners could pursue?
Well, I mean, I had three. I was started as a safety and soundness examiner. I was an IT examiner, I think primarily because I was one of the youngest ones in the on the examination table, and the guys basically said, you're it. So that was my introduction to start as an IT examiner. So I went to the schools, did IT really at one point solely, and then transitioned back to safety and soundness. But I also picked up wealth management. So I did trust, where I was able to go to trust school, understand that part of the bank's balance sheet. I came in the office to review exams. I was reviewing all the exams. I was helping with policies, SOPs, with new regs. There's so many different parts of supervision within an agency that you can dabble your fingers in, and it's all exciting. I think that's what keeps us entrenched for 25, 30, 35 years, is because it's so broad at what we do in our reach. So there's so many paths. We have attorneys, we have data analysts. So, but yeah, it's really the sky's the limit.
So we've got, let's say an examiner's been here for a couple of years and they're just stuck, right? They're like, I don't know what I want to do. Do I want to keep doing this? You guys have mentioned there's so much out there. What are some of those practical steps that examiners can take to expand their career options without leaving the regulatory space?
Well, Derek, I'll tell you, to kind of Rhoshunda's point, we have separate areas, tracks for IT or IS supervision and trust. And we have examiners that are able to move between. But I will tell you, we offer and have the ability for examiners to get certified in certain technical areas of expertise. What comes to my mind is BSA AML. If that's something you really love, which maybe most people say, hey, there's no way I'm going to love that, we're going to help you excel in that area. As well as, I'm trying to think, financial education. I have a financial literacy person on my staff, huge. And I have a training position. Every examiner is a trainer. I wanted to be a teacher at one point. I took down the training role when I was an early examiner. So I think it's internal as well as external areas.
Absolutely. How important are these certifications or these specialized skills? We all want to know everything, but that's just not practical in today's world. But how important are getting those certifications and these specialized skills, even within small agencies or larger agencies?
I think it's critical. And we partner with the SBS on a lot of that. And I'm very thankful for that.
For sure. So let's kind of jump over here. How can examiners leverage their field experience when considering roles outside traditional examination units?
It's a point that will propel your career forward relative to talking policy, if you're able to write, to working with the attorneys, to developing a rapport both with the office as well as with the industry. To be able to reach out into the industry, having said that you had met with some of the bankers in the audience, gives you that instant connectivity relative to that stepping off point. So regardless of the office transition or working with CSBS and working in a regional transition relative to a best practice or a regional perspective, it is incredibly strong for a field examiner to go back to a bank and say, thank you for sharing something with me. I've shared that in a regional meeting, and now we know that there will be multiple states looking at this in the same way. So the field perspective simply changes the dynamic from saying, I understand something, to actually stating, I have seen this work and I know the people that we can talk to.
Thank you, Kelly, for that. That perspective really underscores how broad, actually all of your perspective really underscores how broad and flexible the examiner career can be. So whether someone wants to deepen their technical skills or pivot into policy or explore new areas altogether, there are so many meaningful paths available in the regulatory space. And so now we'd like to switch up the topic just a little bit to a topic that a lot of examiners think about eventually, which is leadership, right? And so, in your view as commissioners and director, what qualities do you feel indicate that an examiner is prepared to take on supervisory or leadership responsibilities?
I would kind of focus on three main areas, but I want to summarize with a kind of a closing point on that. For me, it's engagement. You can tell the examiners that are engaged at a higher level, the ones that are focused on the work and being part of the team and be enthusiastic. Feedback that I get from peers or from bankers about certain examiners who really shine. You want to put yourself in a spotlight where people are going to recognize your skills, your abilities, and then your attitude. I will say that I can almost spot who a next examiner would be for a next promotion by just their attitude, their interaction, their engagement with myself and others. Don't be afraid to walk in this door. If you're afraid to walk in this door, it's going to be, it may not mean that you're prepared for the next challenge. But one of the closing things I'll say for some of the other, my colleagues can share their thoughts. For this next generation of leaders, I'm going to tell you, you have to be patient. I had been an examiner and in different roles for almost 10 years before I got my first leadership opportunity, meaning a supervisory leadership opportunity. You get leadership in the field every time you're an examiner in charge. But a supervisory opportunity came in about 10 years. You know what? It needs 10 years. Sometimes opportunities fall in your lap sooner, but you need to grow and learn in every role. And all of that will help prepare you for leadership, because kind of once you're there, it's no going back, and it's hard to.
So I'll echo what Susannah said. I'll take attitude over aptitude any day. because that's going to be critical. And one of the things I looked at in kind of these questions, one thing I thought about was if you can get along with people, that is a kind of a one character trait I look for the next leader. The ability to think critically about an issue and pose some plausible, achievable, and sustainable solutions. That's also to see the bigger picture. And sometimes youth gives us one thing, but also we're not very patient when we're younger. So I do agree with the patience factor. I do think the ability to see the big picture and try to work on a longer term solution is what I would like to see in a future leader, because they do have to be patient. And sometimes things don't work out. And, what is the resilience in situations like that? So that maturity is going to play a factor in all those things leadership. So I think there are some defined traits. And one of the biggest traits I try to look for in everyone is humility. And I think as a regulator, you need it. As a leader, you need it. And you just can't go wrong with that.
And what everyone has expressed is a multiplier effect. We're needing that next level of leadership to do something more than math. We're looking for their ability to take the team that is with them, because nobody can do this by themselves, even with an AI, and build that team in such a way that we are actually doing something more than we could have done individually. So it very much is a multiplier, but it comes with the right attitude and the right ability to humbly accept, sometimes I don't have the answer. That's the reason we're as a team working on this together.
And sometimes they may not like the answer.
And we work through that too. Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's really, really interesting. So we talked a little bit about characteristics. So with that being said, what emerging skills do you believe will be essential for tomorrow's leaders in supervision and regulation?
I go back to communication. I really do. And one thing I teach my younger staff, or I tell my younger examiners, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Delivery sometimes matter more than, all these critical findings or these recommendations we're making. We've had situations where examiners did not have really good communication skills, and the CEO, who was a lot older and the examiner was a lot younger, and it was just a bad situation. So we can avoid a lot of that awkwardness by being able to communicate effectively and clearly in a respectful way. And that's not natural to some people, but it's a learned skill. It's a necessary skill for an examiner.
100%. It can absolutely help to open doors and close doors. And so I'm going to pivot a little bit. So how can examiners build these skills while still meeting core examination responsibilities? Kelly, you're smiling. Let's go ahead, Director Lammers.
Oh, yeah. It is actually one of those opportunities of a field office that maybe doesn't exist in many other parts of the world. Being an examiner in charge gives you that ability to be a leader within every rotation. So as an examiner in charge, look at how you're treating your team and do better this time. And by doing better, I'm simply saying, have we listened to the entire conversation prior to offering a solution, prior to offering a suggestion? And is our suggestion the required process, or is it a way to get something moving forward? Encourage the team. Is there a better way to do what we do every time you are the examiner in charge? At that point, you've created a culture that is reflective of your leadership skills, comparable to those others in the team. And you start defining what it is to be a leader. So it's not a matter of, at the end of the day, the report is, quote, different. It's how did you go about getting that report? Was it something that was empowering the people that were working together in order to build that? Are the numbers sustainable, accurate in a way that some people even had fun getting there? If you can build that all together, you've changed your leadership style, and you can do that from the time that you've been on 6 weeks, every rotation after that.
Going to add, they need to use their time wisely. In the examining world, there is downtime, especially for younger, less experienced examiners. Use that time wisely. People will notice that, and it will help you further your education, both as an examiner, but just as a young professional. So
that's a great perspective. And then for those who are mid-career, Susannah, what advice would you give to mid-career examiners who want to prepare for the next level, but really just aren't sure where to begin or how to begin?
Rhoshunda hit on this a little bit, but it is just speak up and let people know that you're interested in opportunity, because
Knock on the doors, people.
I-
Speak to your supervisors and
Raise your
directors and
hand.
commissioners.
that's exactly right. Raise your hand. If there is a request for volunteers, you need to be the one. If you know, that's what your mission is and your focus. You want to continue to leverage your skills and take opportunities for advancement. You do need to be your own best advocate and initiate on your own behalf. Now sometimes you may not get selected right away, but be persistent and be positive about it. It's kind of what we've been talking about here for the last few minutes, but that it's really pretty simple in the grand scheme of things. Is if you want to be noticed, do it in the right way, do it in the productive way.
So just to piggyback on Susannah, I was not selected for one of the things I volunteered for at first. So, but I volunteered again, and then that worked out. So you just have to keep doing it, because you're right. You may not be selected the first time, but don't stop.
Yeah, because maybe that just isn't the right thing for you, but there are other opportunities later on. So your attitude, as you all shared, your attitude plays an important role. Being communicative plays an important role. And then lastly, be patient. That is huge. And so your insights paint a really clear picture of what leadership readiness looks like, and both the qualities examiners need and the steps that they can take to build on them. And so it's really encouraging to hear how accessible those opportunities can be with the right support and mindset. And so to wrap things up, we'd like to bring it back to your personal experience. And so reflecting on your own journey, what experience most prepared you for your current role? Start with you, Rhoshunda.
I've been an examiner. I think understanding the core of what we do as supervisors, being an examiner taught me so much in the field, in the communities, in the banks, every week. I did that for 10 years. And that was really a strong foundation for our purpose, our mission, and every strategy we have in this office. And the bigger system of the state supervisors, we all play that in each of our states. So I think for me, being an examiner was critical and fundamental for me to be a great, or at least an effective commissioner.
I would add to that, examining was pivotal and not always hearing yes. I often believed I had the solution. And as I shared with my supervisor or a board of directors, they would question what I was doing. And that was so critical in the foundation of becoming a better communicator, becoming a better examiner, to understand that the data made a difference, but how we presented the data was equally important.
Let's jump ahead here real fast and let's look at the type of leaders that we will need in the future. So what type of leaders will our agencies need the most, and how can examiners start preparing today to become those leaders that we will need?
It will look an awful lot like Susannah and Rhoshunda.
Hey, Kelly.
And very much, we will need to use the tools at hand at the time. When I became an examiner, it was critical that I understood where carbon paper was. I won't go into the details on that. It's highly technical if you're, under the age of 40. I won't even explain it to you because it's very chemically induced. Carbon paper was a multiplier effect. So was an Excel spreadsheet, and so is AI. They are all just tools. You're hired for your opinion. You're hired for your perception. And you're hired to build a better community through a community bank using the power of government. But that all comes through using tools. What are the tools available? Are you flexible enough to pick them up and learn how to use them? Like Susannah mentioned, use your downtime. There's a manual there. Or even if you have to ask AI how to use it, it will tell you.
Rhoshunda, what do you think our future leaders are going to need the most?
I think we have some really smart people coming out of our universities. So technically, they are top notch. I think the softer skills is what we're trying to focus on. Those communication skills, those, ability to interact, engage with the bankers, with their fellow examiners. I think those softer skills are going to be key. And what I also see us moving away from is looking for those technical degrees like finance, accounting, economics. You just hire somebody that had a major in English or management. So I think to the point that you made, Kareeme, is we can train anybody on anything. Maybe you, Susannah, made that point. And we're learning that we can train them effectively in the field. So that degree, while it's great, the type of degree is less important than it used to be. So I do think we're looking differently at our potential examiners. I think the skills that we're looking for now are different than the skills that we were looking for 10 years ago. So it's definitely changed, and I think we can find what we're looking for, but it's definitely changed.
Definitely. Susanna, any thoughts on that?
The only thing I would add is a mindset toward constant learning. Like Rhoshunda and Kelly hit it exactly right. But, I find myself every single day, I cannot keep up with the amount of new information that is in my inbox. And that is critical how we're going to lead our agencies and our successors are going to lead, because this industry of financial services is changing at rapid speed, as well as our everyday lives. But our financial services industry is going to look a lot different in 5 years and in 25 years. And so being someone that has a strong foundation of understanding financial services, and to Roshunda's point, it's the soft skills, but as well as the technical knowledge. So building a strong foundation and then being willing to be open-minded and thinking about what I need to be looking at from a strategic direction. It's not just about managing your day-to-day calendar. It's about being proactive, strategic, doing a little defensive work, and then doing a little leading. So it's a lot of being very open-minded about what's to come. This is not a stagnant industry or a career.
Yeah, being, learning communication skills, being inquisitive, and just keep learning every single
Keep
day.
learning. Every
Thank you.
opportunity is an opportunity to learn something new. Learn something more
Definitely.
today than you did yesterday.
All right. Hey, thank you guys for the hard part. We kind of grilled you on some of these questions. You did an amazing job. Let's get to some of the fun questions, though, our fishbowl questions. So we can ask you a couple things. We want to get to know you a little bit better. So I'm just going to throw out a couple of quick questions. And then, of course, we got to do the pizza question, right? We got to find out what kind of pizza you guys love. So real quick, and each one of you can just let us know coffee, tea, energy drinks, like what gets you guys through a long day of exams or tough day at work?
So usually sugar, now it's coffee. So when I was younger, it was sugar, now it's coffee. But Susannah, it's all yours. Diet Coke.
Diet Coke, all right.
Coffee. Yeah.
Coffee. Okay. Straight coffee. Do you add anything to it, Rhoshunda, since you said it used to be sugar and now it's coffee?
I have a little bit of coffee with my cream and sugar.
Okay.
If that tells you anything.
Okay.
And I'm adding far more sweetener and far less coffee. Yeah.
Just drink the sweetener by itself at this point.
How about this? Any pro tips that you would tell examiners right now? What's one examiner pro tip that no one tells you, but everyone really should know?
Not everybody knows our acronyms.
Yeah.
Learn the acronyms for sure.
Oh, for sure.
I'll give one that's kind of a road rule. Everybody loves to find the best buffet, and they're looking for it every week. Don't do it. Don't make it a habit of going to the buffets and find the best fried chicken. It's going to help you in the long run.
I'm going to be a little bit more boring and say keep a travel bag of toiletries packed.
And so our first Sunday night is a Sunday dread. But having those prepared toiletry bag is great. Made it a little bit easier.
Is there anything that you guys miss about being an examiner, or maybe there's something you don't miss about it at all?
Examining gave the ability to focus. It was cool to think about one topic, one institution at a time.
I think examining, it was so much camaraderie. It was, to Kelly's point, it was pretty much one-dimensional. I think you're putting out 10 fires at once as a commissioner. There's so many things going on, so many different divisions. But as an examiner, you could actually be present, and you're doing that exam, and you're in that community. So you it's like a vacation away from your real life. But I do miss that. I miss the ability to kind of connect with coworkers after work, go grab dinner together or go work out together. There was a family feeling.
I miss the group environment out the road. Yeah. And I still try to get out with my teams from time to time. It gets harder and harder, but they need to see me in their field, in their world. They need to see me there every day. It was certainly that camaraderie.
All right. Last question. It's the pizza question. What's your favorite pizza place? Name, city, and state.
I'm boring. I like Papa John's. It's just a chain, but it's a tried and true. In college, that's what I ate. I still eat it. It's awesome.
Favorite? Do you have a favorite Papa John's pizza that you
The
get
works.
every time?
The works, no black olives.
The works there. You go.
Valentino's Pizza, Lincoln, Nebraska. It's worth standing in line for, and you must have black olives on that. It doesn't matter what you're ordering, it must have black olive.
Yeah, I'm with you, Rhoshunda. No olives. No.
Pepperoni, ground beef, and mushroom from
Okay.
Gun Dan's in Little Rock, Arkansas.
What's the name of it? Tell us the name again.
Gun Dan's. It's one of the heaviest pieces of pizza you'll ever.
I bet.
It sounds delicious.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good time for sure.
I'm getting hungry. Just thinking about it. Really getting hungry. Well, listen, we have had such a wonderful time speaking with all of you on today's call, talking about career paths for examiners. You all have provided us with wonderful advice. We loved hearing your different experiences and how it's shaped your approach to leadership. You helped to bring the conversation full circle, and it to me, it helps to give examiners a tangible sense of what's possible in their own careers. So we just want to say thank you so much, Commissioner Kelly. Thank you, Commissioner Marshall. Thank you, Director Lammers. On behalf of Derek and I, we thoroughly appreciate you taking time out of your very much busy schedule to talk to us and to talk to our audience, so that they too can learn some things that they can use for their future careers.
Thanks for joining In the Loop. Thanks for listening to In the Loop, brought to you by CSBS.
If you want to connect with other examiners and learn more tips for the role and job, don't forget to follow us so you never miss an episode.
We'd love it if you'd spread the word by sharing our podcast with another examiner.
See you next time.
Today's innovations are helping state agencies prepare for tomorrow. SES is a comprehensive technology platform that gives state agencies customized technology tools to conduct supervisory activities, including exams, all in one place. With powerful collaboration tools, SES enables agencies to share information and conduct multi-state exams more efficiently, helping make network supervision a reality. Built by state agencies for state agencies, SES is transforming how exams get done. Ready to streamline your workflow? Visit csbs.org to learn more.